It's the snowy Monaro shuffle, can't you see? With budgets and grounds wild as can be, they keep the numbers rolling round and round. Will the truth ever hit the ground?
A question of fairness and free speech in council. Mayor Hanna's Contempt for Fair Debate by Chris Chan. One of the great marks of civilization is the ability to disagree without silencing those who hold different views. Indeed, a council, like any deliberative body, should be the very stage upon which the free exchange of ideas takes place. Yet, in the recent exchange between Mayor Hanna and Councillor Thaler, we see not the dignified debate of a governing body, but a stark and regrettable display of unchecked authority. Councillor Thaler, in the midst of articulating his point, a point well within the bounds of rational discourse, was cut off by the mayor with a brusqueness unworthy of any chair. It was not that Thaler had descended into irrelevance or bombast. Rather, he was endeavoring to draw a connection between the concept of shovel-ready projects and the council's historical handling of such matters. This, one would assume, is the very function of debate, to explore context, precedent, and implications. Yet before he could complete his reasoning, the mayor wielded his gavel, not as an instrument of order but as a weapon of suppression. Take, for instance, the moment when Thaler attempted to clarify his position. I created a nexus or a relevance between the question and the motion at hand and the debate. I thought it was relevant, pointed, and useful. Rather than allowing Thaler to finish, the mayor interrupted, declaring, "Councillor Thaler, I have ruled on your question. You can either dissent my question and we'll vote on that, or we move on. But I have ruled. You can't over and judge me on my rulement." The condescension in this response is undeniable. Not only does the mayor wrongly use the term rulement, but he also dismisses Thaler's legitimate attempt to establish context. The mayor's tone is not that of a fair arbiter, but of one who sees dissent as a personal affront rather than a necessary function of democratic debate. This is, at its heart, a matter of fairness. The authority of the chair is not a shield against argument, nor is it a license for condescension. Yet Mayor Hanna did not merely rule against Thaler. He did so in a manner that displayed open antagonism, refusing even the courtesy of allowing Thaler to finish his statement. Worse still, when pressed on this injustice, the mayor doubled down as if to say that his ruling, once made, was beyond question. This is not leadership. This is obstinacy dressed in robes of authority. Moreover, the mayor's dismissive and mocking tone only exacerbated the injustice. When Thaler sought to challenge the ruling, the mayor sarcastically asked, "So your motion of dissent is to talk about Brumbies," a flagrant misrepresentation of Thaler's argument. The irony here is that Thaler was attempting to highlight the precedent of government intervention in ecological matters, yet the mayor reduced it to an absurdity before the full case could be presented. It is a tactic unbecoming of the chair of any deliberative body, and one that reveals a fundamental lack of respect for open discussion. The heart of the matter is not just procedural injustice, but moral wrongdoing. The suppression of a colleague in such a manner is a betrayal of the fundamental principles of free speech and open debate. It is one thing to disagree with a councillor's argument, it is another to deny him the right to make it. When those in power wield their authority to silence others, they transform democratic governance into mere posturing, a stage where the outcome is predetermined, and dissent is but an inconvenience to be stamped out. One cannot help but reflect on the implications of such behavior. If a councillor is denied his voice in the very chamber where he was elected to speak, then what does this say to the ratepayers he represents? If authority is used to stifle rather than facilitate discussion, then what kind of governance is this? Surely it is not the kind that serves the people. Rather, it serves only those who seek to maintain their grip on control, regardless of fairness. This much was made clear in the vote that followed. The independent councillors, Councillors Stewart, Rose, Elliott, and Thaler, saw the value in Thaler's comments and upheld his right to speak. They understood the fundamental principle that no representative should be silenced for drawing reasonable connections in debate. And yet, as expected, the usual gang, the mayor himself, along with Councillors Summers, Higgins, Hopkins, and Davis, voted against the motion of dissent, ensuring that the chair's unfair ruling would stand. The divide is striking, as it always is. A gang, moving in lockstep with the mayor regardless of reason, chose instead to suppress an argument they simply did not wish to hear. If those in this bloc do not wish to be perceived as an unthinking, unprincipled alliance, a faction committed not to governance, but to silencing dissent, they should cease voting accordingly. But as long as they persist in these blatant displays of bias, as long as they wield their votes not as instruments of deliberation, but as weapons to stifle discussion, then shame upon them. Shame upon them for using their authority not to foster debate, but to crush it. Shame upon them for siding with power rather than principle. And shame upon them for proving yet again that their first loyalty is not to fairness nor to reason, but only to the preservation of their own influence. It is interesting to note that in both instances where the mayor unnecessarily and rudely interjected, Councillor Nick Elliott had the answer to the question that Thaler had asked, but was denied the opportunity to provide that answer. This only reinforces the absurdity of the mayor's behavior. His actions did not just stifle debate, but actively prevented the dissemination of relevant and factual information. Furthermore, on the second occasion, the longest-serving mayor from Bombala noted that Councillor Thaler had made some fair points. This acknowledgement from a veteran of local government should serve as a stark contrast to the dismissive and arrogant stance of the current mayor. If experience and reason can recognize the validity of Thaler's arguments, why must the mayor go to such lengths to suppress them? Mayor Hanna's actions are not simply discourteous. They are a breach of the trust placed in a leader to be a fair arbiter of discussion. To wield authority in such a way is to betray the very essence of a democratic forum. A good chair fosters discussion, ensuring all voices are heard, not merely those in agreement with his own perspective. Let us, then, call this behavior what it is, a failure of leadership, an affront to the principles of fairness, and an insult to the deliberative process. If this council is to function as it ought, it must demand better, not only from its councillors, but, most especially, from those who hold the gavel. For if freedom of speech is to mean anything, it must surely mean the right to speak even when one's views are inconvenient to those in power. For those who have the time and patience, I strongly encourage you to listen to the meeting yourselves. I have uploaded an 11-minute link containing the relevant disputes, but for those who wish to get the full context, the entire 1 hour and 30-minute discourse is available on the council website. Judge for yourselves whether this was fair leadership or the wielding of power to suppress discussion.
Thank you, Chair. I have several questions to clarify. Could somebody tell me when the Jindabyne Mountain Trail funding, this large package of funding, was first awarded to our council? I'm just reflecting on the comments of the debate where we need to be shovel ready. So if somebody could tell me when we first got the Jindabyne Mountain Bike Trail funding, and that second question will be, when is that shovel ready as point of reflection?
Sorry, councillors, I'll answer the question. We can't answer that question because we don't know, but I can tell you it's not part of the debate today. So happy to put that in. No, it's not, Councillor Thaler, it's not part of the debate today. You need to stick to the motion. If you have questions related to the motion that's on the board today, that's fine. If you've got questions in regards to the shared trail in Jindabyne, put that up as a question we notice or write into the CEO and we'll get that answered. But that is not what you're debating today. You're debating what is on the screen. That is what you need to stick
Chair,
to.
I will challenge you in your ruling because I debating
ruled,
the...
No, sorry.
Well, you can't... Sorry, I will counter you. I was raising a question in reflection on the contribution of Councillor Summers, and I think it's relevant to suggest that we should support this motion on the basis that we need to get things shovel ready, and I just thought let's have a quick look as part of the debate what is meant by shovel ready. So,
are you moving a motion of dissent?
No, I'm challenging you because I don't think you listened to me.
So you can either move a motion of dissent or I ruled, and that's the ruling. The ruling is that what is on the board we're debating today. We're not debating stuff that's in Jindabyne. We're debating...
So I'm not...
Are you...
To clarify, I am not debating Jindabyne. I asked a question I created a nexus or a relevance. Sorry, if you let me finish. I created a nexus or a relevance between the question and the motion at hand and the debate. I thought it was relevant, pointed, and useful. If we're going to promote that this motion is about having things shovel-ready, let's look at our history of shovel-ready projects.
Councillor Thaler, I have ruled on your question that you've asked. You can either dissent my question and we'll debate that, we'll vote on that, or we move on. But I have ruled. You can't over and judge me on my rulement. I've done it. I've said we're sticking to the motion that is on the board. If you would like to put a question with notice in regards to the Jindabyne Shared Trail, you are more than welcome to do that. But at the moment, we are debating what is on the board, and that is what we're sticking to.
So I have a question. Am I allowed to raise a question about matters brought forward by councillors in the debate? Is that not the process of debating? That's my question.
If it's relevant to the motion that's on the board. If it's relevant to the question, the notice that's in the motion on the board, then yes, you can ask a question. But if it is in regards to something that happened 8 years ago in Jindabyne that we've got money for, then no, because that's not what we're talking about today. So we're moving on. Does someone speak against the recommendation that's on the board?
Just a point.
Question?
Point of clarification, because I think Councillor Summers said she was prepared to have aspersions cast on community members, but I don't think any aspersions have been cast. All that's been done is for questions to be raised about who is members of a committee. And so
Councillor Thaler raised it.
I wouldn't like to, well, but there was no aspersions cast. So I think it's an important point of correction.
Thank you. Councillor Elliott, did you have your hand up?
I've got the answer to his question. Do you want it?
No. Okay. Do you want to debate? Do you want to speak against?
I am. Thank you. As somebody who
against.
Against.
Okay.
Against.
Thank you.
So I live at Nimitabel, and I want to remind everybody that our water system at Nimitabel is raw river water pumped out of the McLaughlin. It's pumped up to a storage tank on a hill near the school, reticulated to the town, and it has hypochlorite or chlorine added in. That's it. There's no filtration. There's the testing of the water by our water officer to try to keep it within drinking standards. This lake that we're talking about is now being quarantined and turned off. And so Nimitabel has water restrictions because this lake is full of blue-green algae. Trout are not native. And the Labor Party of New South Wales have gone and spent over $16 million apparently shooting all the horses up in Kosciuszko National Park.
Point of order, Councillor Thaler, stick to topic. You're not talking about Brumbies, you're talking about the lake in Nimitabel.
So in a debate, I'm allowed to bring any information in that I think is relevant to the debate. And the question was put by Councillor Summers just momentarily. I'm entitled she was curious about Nate.
And I'm entitled to rule on your debate, and I said stick to the debate of the motion. So
well, I'll move a motion to dissent against your ruling because you don't know where I'm going with that.
Okay, that is fine. Motion dissent. So your motion dissent is to talk about Brumbies.
You can mock all you like, Chair.
No, but I'm actually trying to get it up on the board.
I'm smarter than you, and I will ask you to keep your mocking tone to your corridors. I was talking about native animals versus introduced species. And a trout.
No, you were not.
Yes, I was. Trout is an introduced species.
Councillor Thaler, when I talk, you don't, and I am, and I know what is going on. So I'll be very clear. You started talking about Brumbies and the Labor Party killing them. Nothing about fish in a lake. You stick to the motion. That is to review the decision that was made in 2018, as Councillor Stewart has stated. That is the motion that's on the board. Now, your rule of dissent was so you could talk about the Labor Party spending money and shooting Brumbies. And that is what you are asking me, and that's what I'm ruling on, not to talk about that. So that is what you are going to dissent.
Yes, because I was drawing a nexus.
And we're going to put that on the board and then we'll vote on that.
And I would like to then speak to my motion of dissent.
Can you talk to the
Can you talk to the Ministry of the State? Sorry, can you talk to the Ministry of the State? No, the person that can speak to it and can speak to it.
Thank you. Yes, so I'll just get on the board and then you can talk for the dissent. Councillor Thaler, you want to talk about the dissent?
Thank you. So I dissent to your ruling, Chair, on the basis that you actually cut me off well before I could provide the relevant context of what I was saying. Councillor Summers was in making inquiries and asked questions about native animals. Is there any evidence of native animals in the lake? And that is certainly a point of legitimate concern. And I would share Councillor Summers' concern. I'd like to know that too. So I was drawing a parallel, and whilst I factually said the Labor Party has spent in the order of $16 million shooting horses in Kosciuszko National Park, the reason they did that was primarily to protect the stocky galaxis, which lives in the very upper reaches of Tantangara Creek, which, by fortune of nature, there's a waterfall which prevents the trout from climbing up that waterfall and eating the stocky galaxis. So vast sums of money have been spent by the state government, taxpayers' money, to kill horses to protect a fish. So we have a lake that we are talking about as the subject of this motion, which is not known for native animal habitat because it's an artificial man-made lake. Now, the other questions are that we have apparently evidence that it's been illegally stocked. And if we look at the impact of that illegal stocking and potential illegal fishing, we have a blue-green algal outbreak so severe that the lake is quarantined. The McLaughlin River, which is where the lake drains into, is also now quarantined as a water supply, and Nimittabel is on water restrictions and strictly upon bore water. So I don't think it's quite the difficult thing to understand the nexus between the point I made. A question about native animals in an artificial lake, how to protect them, whether we should put trout in there that might eat them if they had established their population, and the fact that we spent vast sums of taxpayer money in Kosciuszko National Park, killing as many brumbies as we could, principally to protect the stocky galaxis fish in the upper reaches of Tantangara Creek. That is why I challenge you in a ruling of dissent, because you cut me off before I could provide the wider context of a wider debate of an artificial water reservoir in Nimittabel, which is currently the subject of major problems, which I don't see that we have any answers on how to solve. So that is why I think it was unfortunate that you did what you did, and I will argue against you, Chair.
Thank you. The reason why I ruled is because I had a point of order, Councillor Thaler, and I ruled on that point of order. You did not. You continued to talk after the $16 million Labor Party and the Brumbies, and continued to talk on other stuff before you actually brought in the natives. So that is why I had a point of order, and I ruled on that point of order. That is how I went. So I appreciate what you're saying, but we will now vote on the dissent and then move forward on the debate. All those in favour of the dissent?
I think
Councillor, thank you, Councillor Stewart, Councillor Rose, Councillor Elliott and Councillor Thaler. All those against? Councillor Summers, Councillor Higgins, Councillor Hopkins, Councillor Davis, Councillor Hanna. Dissent has been lost. Back to debate.
Salaries are hefty, bigger than the rates outspend, and the townsfolk, as history states, they're buying reports and papers thick. But the roads are bumpy, the fix is slick. Oh, it's the snowy Monaro shuffle, can't you see? With budgets and grants wild as can be, they keep the numbers rolling round and round. But will the truth ever hit the ground? Salaries to Monaro, the whole wide crew, from Bombast to Paradell, we're looking at you. Keep singing this tune, keep voices strong, for snowy Monaro we'll all play along.